Rosary, how's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know what it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast on Soul Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists. The line fans cover the creative workflow of the favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best of your cuffs competing needs. Get $100 off your Intelli's code CVPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Links to your podcast below. And according to millionpodcasts.com, they have the top 100 metal podcasts out there today list ranking. Where's the Chord Progression Podcast on there? We're number 21. 20 spots to go to get to the top one. Let's try and get there, baby. Now let's go to our feature presentation. You want heavy? Yeah, we're giving it to you. We have Bobby from Signs of the Swarm on the podcast today with the brand new album To Rid Myself of Truth coming out on August 22nd. We dive deep in with Bobby about just reflecting over his time in music over the past 12 years, seeing how the band has told that line from not falling into, I'm not saying obscurity, but falling into just kind of being too comfortable but not getting overextended at the same time as well. The support system that they've built up, the things that Bobby takes with that energy of yeah, this is absolutely awesome and doesn't take for granted. But then we dive into the album. We dive into the album construction on it and how some of the features on these songs make the most standout points and how the second half of this album is really where it stands out with features from Will Ramos and Lorna Shore, Phil Bozeman from Whitechapel, and Jack Murray from 156 Sounds and Johnny Crowder from Prison. Oh, yeah. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. We like to go heavy on this podcast, as you've seen from some of the great bands we've brought on all throughout our history, and especially in 2025. And, well, we kept wanting to go heavier. And we did. You have seen this band go on the road consistently with some of the heaviest hitting lineups you could possibly see, some of the heavy hitting shows you could possibly go and be a part of. And whenever you leave their shows, all you're thinking is, from whatever I've heard, man, that was worth it. Fortunately for me, every time I get to see them play, they're always on a date when I can't go and see them. Not this time, though, because you got to go see them live, especially with the brand new album, To Rid Myself of Truth, coming on August 22nd. It's one hell of a ripper, and it is going to absolutely hit you in all the places that make you enjoy heavy music. So please welcome Bobby from Signs of the Swarm to the podcast. So Bobby, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it. Oh, you're very welcome. How is everything going in your world as we're really, really close to the release of this brand new album? I believe it is album number 6 in the band's discography.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that out loud. It's brutal, but yeah, everything's great. We're staying busy. We just got home off the road from Europe, and we're kind of full-fledged in album release mode. Got some more work to do here, but yeah, good. I can't complain. I'm happy to be busy.
I mean, it's a great time, too, especially just being able to go on the road consistently. I know you guys were out on the road earlier in the year in the U.S. You got back from Europe. You're going back out on the road once again later on in the year. There's a lot of positivity that's around the band, a lot of positivity around heavy music. So why not just be fully invested and fully a part of it? And yeah, six albums already. Yeah, it seems like, oh man, we've already made 6 albums. But then again, band being formed in 2014, it's only been a little over 10 years. There's some bands that have been around that long and maybe only put out an album or 2, and you guys are already at 6.
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier today with somebody actually too. We tend to be on a 2-year cycle for the most part. So yeah, it just kind of keeps rolling and the train keeps moving. It's pretty crazy. I've been in this band since I was 18 and I'm 30 now. So it's pretty wild. It's a pretty crazy feeling. I spent my whole 20s and just kind of doing this one thing.
Because now you got me thinking back, because I'm 30 as well. It's like, what would it have been like to be in a band at 18 and still be doing it to this day and going through your entire 20s doing it? And to think about it, it has to be just an absolute trip, because there are so many people out there that's what they want to do and that's what they want to be a part of. And there's people that are doing it and people that are a part of it, but the majority of them maybe just, keep it smaller, end up staying in the local scene. And you guys have been doing this for, 12 years at this point, 11, 12 years. And you guys have been touring all across the world with this music, which is still just nuts to think about. From, if I would have told you that at 18, you'd have probably been like, oh, that's so cool. I wish we could do that. It's like, well, you're going to, and you did.
Yeah, definitely. it's a weird feeling. We spend so much time on the road and together and working, and you have good days and bad days, just like anything else. And I definitely have days that I have to remind myself of like where I'm at and where we're at, and the work that we've done to get to a point where we're pretty proud and comfortable in what we do, and I'd say confident is a good word. We're much more confident now than 10 years ago. Or if we were confident, then it was probably misfound, undeserved confidence. But yeah, man, it's quite the journey. Just years and years growing up with the guys, growing up with the family and all that, and just kind of sticking it through is crazy.
It's like back then, it's like if you guys had confidence around there, I mean, maybe it's because you had such a big belief in yourself, but it's like confidence in what the future can hold. And now the type of confidence you have is different because there's, 11, 12 years of history behind there, and you can look back and see how far you've come. And yeah, you'll take the good days with the bad days, but the thing is, the good days outweigh the bad in everything you're doing, because those bad days are going to come around, but if you're enjoying those good days so much more than a bad day can weigh you down, that's how you know you're doing the right thing, but also at the same time really enjoying everything about Signs of the Swarm and everything about the life that you have at the moment.
Yeah, and there's a certain level of pride, and also too, we walk a fine line of always trying to kind of not let our heads get too big, because I mean, we're just like everybody else, still hungry, still working, and grinding, just like we were all that time ago. I think the difference now is that we have a team and a little bit of history to kind of support the decisions we've made,
Mm-hmm.
to back it up a little bit.
Well, that's a really hard line to follow for literally everybody in their own capacity, because if you have success in something, you kind of let your heads get way too big, or you kind of get over cocky with it, then you're going to tip one way, you're going to tip another way. Ego can come in at certain points in time for many people in the music scene, as we've seen throughout history, where we've seen bands get a little bit of traction, whether it's in the local scene, they get regional, national, whatever it might be. And this certain type of attitude ends up being their ultimate downfall. So having to toe that line between confidence and also kind of not necessarily being reserved, but being rational about everything and understanding the place that you're at to kind of ground you is always something that's going to be tight to like walk along. So when it comes to making sure you're walking that line, I'm not going to say perfectly, but walking that line well, what do you guys end up doing to make sure of that?
I think it's really important to have a team of people. Like now we're at a point where we have a great record label, we have a great manager, a great booking agent, and we have a team of people that tour with us as well. It kind of rotates between a handful of friends, and to have people like that around you that don't just kind of feed you bullshit and tell you what you want to hear. People to be very real with you and honest with you is like, sometimes we undersell ourselves and they lift us up, and sometimes we push a little bit farther than we probably should and they bring us back down to earth. And that's just kind of, that's the forever battle of learning kind of where you're at in this world, because music is really weird. There's no real, aside from people coming out to see your shows, because I mean, album sales are not really much of a thing anymore. And look, comparatively, like how many amazing, huge bands in our scene now that if they were doing this 15, 20 years ago could sell 1 million records. It just doesn't happen. It's all streams. Even then, streams are hard to judge off of, because people can fudge those numbers and this and that. So all that really matters is the people that come to see you play, the people that actually will take the time to come see you. So there's, not a lot of metrics. It's just kind of like you learn from being out there and doing it, and kind of, putting in the work and seeing what comes back to you, I think.
That's a great way to look at it, just given the fact that as the band continues to grow, as you guys continue to evolve, you have a team around you that will pick you up when you guys are down, but also rein you back in if you guys are potentially getting overextended. Which, trying to get overextended, I mean, you might be pushing some boundaries. You might be pushing further just to get somewhere, get ahead, and try something different. That might be worth it, and they can help push you towards it, but it's a team to make sure that you're staying in line with the overall, goals and vision that you have as a band going forward, and not letting something kind of unravel that unwillingly. That's a huge key. And even if you're a smaller band and you don't have a kind of a team around you, you're going to potentially have family, friends, other, connections with other bands in your scene that might be able to help you out with that. But you also got to be careful of that too, because sometimes people's egos come into play, and there's a lot of times where misery loves company at the bottom.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Like you're probably not one to, no musician's probably, foreign to that concept, where there's other bands that they've worked with in the past, maybe in the local side, regional side, where it's, if things aren't going as well and you're kind of going above them, they're trying to pull you back because they never got there. But at that point in time, that's where a great support system is able to help you get past that. But the one thing I really like what you said was the thing that matters, the metric that matters, is the people that are coming to your shows. Because you're absolutely right. Album sales are nowhere near the metric they once were. They're never going to be like the metric they once were. And streaming numbers can easily be distorted, especially what we're seeing with some, I forgot what the AI artist's name is, the one that was getting all those streams on Spotify. Yeah, it's all AI driven, and you're seeing what the consequence of it in real time and how those numbers can be completely distorted. But there is no distorting the fact that, if you're putting on a show and you're putting on a show in front for 500 in a 500 person room, and 500 people show up and there are more people still trying to buy tickets, or 1,000 cap room and more people are still trying to buy tickets, and keep going and going, then that's the metric where something's really cooking.
Exactly. Yep.
And I don't really think I think, especially artists, they see that, but I'm not necessarily sure the fans and maybe some of the labels are seeing that too, because everyone puts so much stock into Spotify streaming numbers right now, because I think it's just something that's so much easier to quantify at that moment. The convenience of its quantifiability is right there. But when it comes to going out and playing shows, you got to put in the work to promote that stuff. You got to put in the work to actually make it worth people's while to go out and see you play. And it's, your music can be the thing that draws people out there, but what's going to make them stay and come back again? Whatever type of live show you end up producing.
Exactly. The performance. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. It's pretty easy to get somebody to just click on a link. It's hard to get somebody out of their house and have them willing to come spend their hard-earned money on time with you, for sure. That's a whole nother level.
Now, since, of course, we had the craziness of 2020 with the pandemic, and you guys have been around since before the pandemic, and of course, still thriving after as well. When it comes to the live show, have you seen it currently, kind of that we have a larger sample size? Was it easier to get people to come to a live show before the pandemic happened, or now?
We actually started doing better after the pandemic. I think it kind of, for better or worse, cut out a lot of the fat of bands that were maybe a little more like doing it as a pastime and less as like wanting to make a career out of it, which is a fine thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that it definitely cleared a little bit of space, at least for the time being. I think it's definitely getting pretty slammed again. There's tours constantly. But those first 2 years, there was a lot more space, and we definitely had a big bump in just, success, I guess, if whatever you want to call it. But from before the pandemic, I mean, we were doing pretty well. We'd started getting some solid tours, and I was just getting to a point where I had just put in my 2 weeks at my day job because I was like, well, not like we were doing crazy well or anything, but I was like, if I can stay consistent, I can pay my bills, and that's awesome. And then COVID happened, so I ended up staying at my job for another year and a half. But right after we got back on the road for about 3 months or so, like September 21 through, February 22 or so, I was able to leave my job again. So officially, which was cool. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's been more stable. Like we've had pretty consistent tourists coming through the door and just trying to stay busy. People keep buying merch, which is great. So I'm grateful for that.
It's another great metric to look at, see what kind of merch people are buying. And if people are buying it, people are connecting with it. Because, yeah, there are times where people are going to buy shirts because, we went to a show, but they're not going to buy a shirt or not going to buy a shirt of a band they didn't somehow connect with at some point in time, whether it was at that live show or whether it was just listening to you guys in their pastime or just listening to you guys on like a run, whatever it might be. If they connect with you somehow, they're going to end up buying that shirt. And that's something that, internally you guys can quantify and see, okay, how are we actually doing comparatively to not necessarily other bands, but comparatively to what we expect and where we want to go with this. But man, yeah. I do remember that pandemic time, and we said it's like those first 2 years of it. So I'm thinking like, we'll use September of 2021 all the way to the end of 2023. It did seem like, everyone and their mom wanted to get back out on the road and tour because everyone was on the shelf for a year and a half. Everyone wanted to get out there, but at the same time, people were wanting to get back out there too. So it was a tough thing for people like myself, where it was, you had 2 or 3 different shows around you at a time, and it's okay. I can only go to one because they're all on the same night in the same city. What am I supposed to do there? But it's something that I do miss because, man, it was like we had the ability of choice, but every show ended up being sold out no matter which one you went to. And that was just an absolute beautiful thing. And the bands ended up being able to continue through COVID and come out the other side with a lot of a stronger base, not only within themselves, but also within the music that they've created. You saw the quality, I think, especially in heavy music, whether it's heavy metal, metalcore, deathcore, hardcore, really rise over the past couple of years since the pandemic. And people have gotten more and more connected with it, driving people to become more part of the live scene.
Yeah, definitely. It's been pretty crazy the last couple of years. There's a lot of great heavy bands that are doing really, really, really well right now. It's an interesting time for heavy music for sure.
It's an interesting time, but it's a time that you kind of want to be a part of, and you guys are a part of it too, because it seems like every time I see, a tour bill come out and I see Signs of the Swarm on there, it's like, okay, you're headlining really decent sized rooms, or it's like if you're an opener, it's like, man, they're opening for that band. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I kind of want to go see that. So there's a lot of times where, when you see Signs of the Swarm on a bill, there, that show is going to be something that's going to be an absolute ripper, whether they're a headliner or whether they're in support, because if they're in support, the bands that are going to be on top of them on the bill are going to be just as good, if not maybe put on just a slightly better show.
Yeah, man, we've been fortunate to do a lot of really, really cool shit, and I still just feel like a kid sometimes just going to shows. Like, we do these festivals, and whenever we're not playing, I'm running around trying to catch bands and see shit, it's like, so I'm still just kind of riding that wave.
Well, take a look back at that wave, because especially enjoying this like you're being a kid, that's something that you don't want to get rid of. It's a joy that people never really get back once they lose it, and you still have it, so keep rolling with it. But
sometimes I do. Yeah, I have my moments. I definitely am starting to feel rolling into my 30s that I'm not quite the excited kid I used to be, but those moments, yeah, when I get to walk up and see some band that I grew up with or whatever, and get to kind of see what they got going on behind the scenes and whatnot, like that's like you had mentioned earlier on, getting to kind of experience that shit. I never would have thought I'd get to do that when I was younger, so I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, take a look back the last couple of years and in this specific capacity, because what were the moments where you felt like the most excited, like, like had that childlike, absolute bonkers excitement from something that either you guys did or somebody that you played with or something you got to experience over the last couple of years due to Signs of the Swarm?
Yeah, the biggest, like one of the interesting moments I had a couple of years ago, or this last year, I think, when we were on tour here in the States with the Art is Murder. I grew up going to a lot of shows at House of Blues, Cleveland, and like the Agora and all that. I live in an area that's kind of like central to a lot of cool, like, smaller cities that have some cool venues. Anyways, some of the best shows I ever saw growing up were at that venue at House of Blues, Cleveland, and Parkway Drive, Thy Art, man, Chelsea Grin, Black Dahlia, just stuff that really made me want to do it when I was younger. And on that tour with IR. The last time I was at that venue was seeing them probably 8 or 9 years ago, and we got to play there with them and walking in and kind of getting to see behind the glass a little bit and to see it from the other side. Like, we do a lot of shows. I've been to a lot of really cool, amazing places, amazing venues with amazing bands. Places way cooler than the Cleveland House of Blues, but just that one in particular, like really just kind of hit something for me because I used to look at these bands and be like, that's amazing. This is what I want to do. Thinking that these were the biggest bands in the world, that I would never aspire to anything like that. Thinking these people are, legends, rock stars, millionaires, whatever, when I was a child, and now being in the position of where some of those bands were at the time, getting to play those stages in the same places, definitely put a lot of things into perspective for me, and also being able to make friends with people that I looked up to and having conversations with them about like, we're all just kind of doing the same thing. Everybody's just, we do it because we love it and we're here working. And if you're lucky to keep doing it, you might grow, and you really have to do it for the love of the game, but that was a really cool moment for me, being at that venue and kind of walking on that stage and looking around, seeing the backstage and everything, and being like, kind of completing that childhood memory, from both sides. We've done a lot of cool festivals in the last couple of years too, where I've seen some really amazing bands that I never thought I would see too. I got to catch Dream Theater a couple months ago, which was fun. No, they're not even like one of my favorite bands, but just cool shit, legendary bands. It's cool to get to see kind of the behind the scenes, see how they set up their shows and stuff, and just shit that I never thought I would see when I was younger. So
I think that full circle moment with the House Blues Cleveland, where you're right, there's probably other venues that are definitely more historic in terms of their impact on rock and metal or just who's played there. But just because of your connection with House of Blues Cleveland from going to shows there as a kid, it has that full circle moment of, this is what we've done. This is what we've been able to create. We aspired to do this when we were kids, and we aspired to be those bands on stage. Not only are we one of those bands on stage right now, but the bands we aspire to potentially be like, we are now playing alongside them on those stages. And that kind of can be a thing of reflection for anybody, where maybe you had a specific dream or something they were specifically connected to when you were younger, and then you get to essentially experience what you've always been dreaming of experiencing in one capacity or another, and you think, man, it's just, you have these passions in life, you have these goals in life that you want to achieve, and when you get to that part, you realize you actually did it. It takes a completely different, it takes that childhood wonder and energy, but also puts in this epiphany of realization that what you put your heart and soul into has not only impacted your life in an incredible way, but impacted the lives of so many others at the same time as well.
Yeah, man, it's really hard to think like that at times, though, to be honest, because for me, I always just kind of feel like just a guy. I make music. I enjoy my time at home, like I said, with my wife and my animals and whatnot, So it can be kind of weird. It's a bit like imposter syndrome at times, where I try not to, I don't know. I try not to think about those things too much. But like I said, in those moments when you walk up there and you're like, oh shit, this is, it's right in front of your face. It's hard to deny that kind of full circle thing. It's a cool feeling.
And the crazy thing is, you're not the only one to feel something like that. I've had other artists on the podcast before too, where they've said something very similar, where they've had those dreams, they've had those goals, and when they got to actually be there, as exciting as it was, there were times they felt like, am I actually supposed to be here? Is this actually supposed to be mine? They get that imposter syndrome feeling. Good example is Maria from the band Future Palace. They're from Germany. They came out their third album last year, and she spoke about the exact same thing. So there's a lot of people, not only in the music industry, but even throughout the world, that feel the same way. I felt the same way in my new full-time job too. There are days where I'm like, yeah, I got this. I was like, they picked me for a reason. But then there are other days where I'm thinking, shoot, am I supposed to be here? Is this actually supposed to be my thing?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that was a big eye-opening. Obviously, you bump into people that do have that real authentic kind of rock star vibe where it's like, yeah, they were born to do that, But I think most of the people that you meet generally in this line of work are just people who really like music. They really want to play music, and they just do it by working really, really hard a lot for a very long time. And there's something with that that's like, and generally those people who do that are very humble because they've had to work so hard and they've had so many ups and downs. So yeah, I think a lot of the people that we've made friends with over the years are kind of in the same boat where it's like you just kind of stumble your way into, not to ignore the hard work that goes into it, but like every now and then you get a little break and something happens, it's like, oh, I just kind of stumbled my way into this gig or whatever, and it can feel very strange sometimes. We do anything from playing to 200 people to 10,000 people given, whatever show or tour or festival we're fortunate enough to be on. So it's very up and down like that. Like, these moments where it's like, yeah, this feels right. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into a whole nother world, and then it's kind of back and forth all the time. So it's a very interesting job. An interesting passion to have.
But it also connects back to like what you're talking about, the team that you guys have around you, which, helps you toe that line between, getting way overextended versus maybe playing it too safe and keeping you grounded and, being able to continue to do what you do. Being able to be friends with so many of these other bands and so many of these other musicians that have dealt with the exact same things that you guys are dealing with or are dealing with the same things that they're dealing with, it creates that sense of community and you get that sense of support there where you're not going to get it really for anywhere else because no one else is going to have that type of experience. Plus, like you said, there's times you just want to, hang out at home, hang out with your wife, hang out with the animals. Yeah, there's a lot of people in music too that probably want to just have time to do that too. So it kind of grounds you back to reality and not let you get so overextended at the same time as well, because you still have that basis of, you still have that home base that you still want to be able to go back to and still have that comfort there when you need it and when you need it the most.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of my favorite times on tour is just hanging out with people and sharing pictures of our dogs.
Well, shoot, when I get a chance, it's like, I'm going to start thinking about that now. It's like, okay, if I'm, seeing bands, all of a sudden getting able a chance to talk to them. Unfortunately, I don't have any pets myself, but my girlfriend is a huge, huge animal lover. She's got 2 dogs, 2 cats, a gecko, and a hedgehog. And she sends me pictures of them all the time. I'd be like, well, take a look at this dog and this cat and this dog and look at this one. Look at what it's doing.
It's nice. Yeah, it's a nice kind of reminder of, especially, if you're on the road a lot or for a long time at the moment, it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's a life outside of, waking up in the bus and desperately searching for coffee in the bathroom and, whatever it is. All the fun stuff that they don't tell you about when you go, I want to be in a metal band.
No, they never tell you about that stuff, but especially on the touring side, if you ever watch those or if you guys have been a part of that digital tour bus, there's some things you get to see that where you're just like, oh, that doesn't seem like the most glamorous thing in the world, but at least you get to see something or some of it compared to just thinking it's, all glitz and glamour and as insanely impactfully pricey hotel rooms every single night.
Yeah, definitely not. You're lucky to have time to stop like that, to be honest. We get a couple times on every tour, and that's about it. Spent a lot of time moving, for sure.
See, can we get something like we get Buc-ees in on it. We'll call it the Buc-ees Hotel. It's just it's like the truck stop where bands can stop, but it's like they have like hotel rooms where you guys can stay at, and it's only designated for touring musicians. I
mean, honestly, yeah, they'd stay pretty busy at this point. Yeah, I think so. That'd be crazy.
Honestly, the amount of absolute just insane press Buc-ees has gotten from the metal scene since the pandemic broke because of the power of social media, it's nuts.
Let me show you something. Oh, I got a fucking Buc-ee on my leg, dude.
Oh my God.
So yeah, you're talking to the right guy, dude. I love that shit. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. And I've only been able to be inside of Buc-ees, I think, twice because I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We've got none of that up here at the moment. Yeah, they're planning on building one, and they're planning on building one just outside of Milwaukee in 2027. And I'm like, bring it here. I need me that brisket sandwich.
Yeah, it's nice to have a place to look forward to, clean bathrooms, and always open, especially now, like we said, after COVID. A lot of places, aren't 24 hours anymore, right? It used to be Walmart was the place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Just hang out at Walmart all night. You can go in and buy food and, hang out in the parking lot. Now you can't do that. And if you try to even park there, they usually kick you out. So there's not a lot of places, a lot of refuge anymore.
Yeah.
For touring. It's kind of like whatever truck stop you can find. And they're definitely the best of the truck stops.
Well, Buc-ees, if you want to expand your business, make the mini Buc-ees Hotel for touring musicians. Yeah. Every night, those rooms will be packed. Trust us.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the best press out of it because every artist and every band already loves Buc-ees. Now they're going to be talking about you every single day.
Brilliant.
More so than they already are.
It's funny. We joke all the time that you can tell, if you meet a new band or something like that, you can tell how new they are to this world by how excited they get by Buc-ees. Because one's like, it's a great place. It's a cool place. And there's always, we always look forward to stopping there. Like I said, to get food and clean bathrooms and whatnot. But some people are just so about it that you're like, you must not tour that, because eventually you do it enough that you're just like, all right, cool. It's, we're pulling over. It's just another place. So we joke about that a lot, actually.
But hey, you got the tattoo of it on you, so.
Yeah, I know. That's not a regretful one. I do love it, but I wish I would have done a little more with it. Or thought it through a little more. I love the tattoo, but it's good because in conversations like this, sometimes I see people out, or I have the t-shirts on, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, that ain't even half of it. You gotta see this.
And I got it without even seeing the t-shirt. I just ended up bringing it up, and it absolutely works. So, woohoo! Well, we've talked enough about Buc-ees, I think. The one main thing I do want to talk about, especially in this episode, is the brand new album, To Rid Myself of Truth, again, coming out on August 22nd, 2025. Your guys' 6th album, and dive into this album. It seemed like it was one hell of a project to put together, not only from David's side vocally and lyrically, but just putting together these 11 songs with some of these absolutely insane features. So how did this whole entire album come together over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, some bits and pieces I had written from years ago, like a lot of stuff I start and then maybe it doesn't make it to, it never makes it to a final cut or whatever. So I kind of take bits and pieces and rework some things. So there are a couple bits on there that are pretty old that we've reworked a couple times, but a lot of it, yeah, we wrote, within a couple of months of going to the studio. We tour so much that usually when it comes to writing, we just kind of, we go, oh, well, we have to write now, so we have to make time for it, and yeah, had a great time with the guys. We were up in the studio for like a month and a half. Almost a month and a half. It's the longest we've ever been in the studio. And yeah, a lot of work, a lot of building ourselves up and getting tore down and building ourselves up again. And yeah, it just takes a lot of time. And I think, we work pretty well together and we spend a lot of time together. So I usually start with some riffs here and there, send it off. And I try to do, when I'm writing like that and kind of in like crunch time, I try to get a song done every like 2 days or so. So I'll start it, spend the day on it, walk away, come back to it the next day, maybe take a couple more days if I need to just sit on it. And then I send it out to the guys. And then, one of the other guys might send me a riff. And I do most of the like building of the songs here at my desk here. So the guys will send me some stuff and I'll start putting stuff together. So I kind of get to play a little producer role sometimes, which I really like a lot. And I'm very fortunate to be able to have a pretty loud voice in this band that I get to speak my musical piece in a way that I want to most of the time. So I'm very, very fortunate for that. So yeah, it kind of starts there. It all starts here, and then it gets into Dave's hands. Him and Mike spend a lot of time on lyrics, and then Yeah, but I could go on about that record all day if you want. If you got anything specific you want to know about it, we spent a lot of time the last couple of months getting everything ready for this. So.
Well, one thing that you said that you guys kind of went with this record is like it's kind of like tearing yourselves down and building yourselves back up. And when you listen through this record, specifically from song 1 all the way down to song 11, when you do it in order, that's actually what it feels like. It feels like there are songs that are completely tearing you down, but then the next song is trying to pick you back up or trying to rebuild you back up. So going through this, especially when you got towards the end, especially the last 2 songs, it felt like now you're starting to feel that picking up the pieces coming together mentally. So when you get out of this album, you not only have torn down yourselves multiple times musically, and from us as a fan standpoint, we've not only torn ourselves down mentally a couple of times, but we're leaving with a much more built up and stronger ideal of essentially what we kind of believe in ourselves, but also not really as afraid of the things that we're really afraid to bring out into this world or actually speak about them. I think I saw a quote from Dave where it said, "I realize I scream things I'm too chicken shit to talk about." It's like by the end of this, you're not feeling nearly as chicken shit to bring some of those things up and to not let them be something that holds you back overall in life, whether it's consciously or subconsciously.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, he works really hard, and he's always trying to find really interesting ways, especially on this record, like interesting, relatable ways to kind of speak his own piece and speak things, from that actually mean something from himself. Every now and then we have just a fun, heavy song that's just meant to be fun and heavy and kind of over the top. But a lot of the times he tries really hard to find something personal to him that he can make relatable to other people. And he did a lot of that on this record. He spent a lot of time, with wordplay and trying to take things that are very literal to him and make them accessible to other people. That you can kind of take things in and get what you want out of it, which is really cool. Yeah, he's did a great job with that on this record. We spent a lot of time, like I said, tearing lyrics and patterns and all that apart and piecing it back together. And yeah, then the album, it is quite a ride. I like albums still. I'm very much an album person. I'm not really like a single, like just listen to one song. Like I want to put on a record when I listen to music. So I try really, really hard to not let the albums just be the same kind of thing the whole time. And even if it does something like, some stuff on Low and Empty, it kind of there's bits and pieces where it'll feel kind of similar, but if you really pay attention to what's happening, and I think just kind of let it happen to you, it'll take you on a ride. I think there's a lot of that on this record too. There's a lot of things that you might not expect that I think that kind of happen in a way where if you listen to the record as a whole, it gives everything context. Like there's some songs that are way super high energy and some songs that are a little more chill, and then they kind of build up. They have their peaks and valleys, and as far as like excitement goes and what they're trying to get across to you. I think that's cool. I think that like allowing those bits and pieces to kind of be a part of something bigger and taking it in as one whole piece is very important to me, because maybe one song on its own, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like you might not fully get it without the context of hearing the songs that surround it, And I like that a lot. That's the stuff that I grew up listening to, albums. It's like might have, I don't think we have any ballads, but a ballad might make a lot more sense from a certain band if you're hearing the context in the album where it is. It can be a palate cleanser, like a big emotional, moment or whatever it is. So I appreciate that.
I'll say it absolutely can be. And especially with this album, one thing I noticed was when you brought up about albums where you didn't want everything to just sound like, if it was, like kind of like constructing where everything sounded very similar or nothing had a cohesive flow to it, because if there's certain songs that you kind of have another song in there that's going to add context to it and make the experience much more grand when you listen to it in an album run through, you're going to want to end up having it in that correct order. The thing that stood out to me, though, specifically was, especially as we got towards the end of the album, specifically with Fear and Judgment, and then the last song, Creator. What I saw happen was I saw a little piece of this like a progressive idea that started happening in there that changed up the way that the songs kind of were being presented. It wasn't very pronounced. It was somewhat subtle. There were some different pieces that the guitars were playing, and especially a bit later on the album, the bass guitar had a little bit more of like a prominent piece to it. So it added a little bit more of a groove. It added a little bit more of a different vibe than just this forward heaviness that some of these other songs had. But it brought the album out in a much more expansive way towards the end. But it showed more of that, what I said, kind of like making sure you were built up by the end of it. You were built up by the end of it, but you weren't built up in the exact same way that you went into the album, or that it was going to try and break you down. By the time you got built back up towards the end, you had a completely different feel from the different uses of tonality in the guitar, from some pieces of the vocals, and from the bass lines that were being created through there.
Yeah, man. Thank you. That's really cool of you to say. I think we like just writing a lot of ass beat or fun, ridiculous, over the top songs for sure. That just kind of make you want to fight or whatever it is, or people to hit their PRs with, we like that. But also I think we're all very interested in, progressive music, just atmosphere, like we all really kind of enjoy like the 90s grunge industrial, like noisy shit and experimental stuff like that it's cool to be able to do a little bit of that. We always try to put bits and pieces of new stuff in without taking away from too much of the sound, and sometimes we go kind of far and we have to dial it back. And there's some moments on the album that even I was like, that might be a bit far, but then you hear it with like you said, with the context and the way some of the songs flow into the other songs, where it kind of gives it that, like, it makes it make sense, which I love that. I tend to, I've said this a lot too. My favorite songs tend to be the more weird, less straightforward, kind of songs that take you on a journey.
Well, by saying that, that's perfect segue into what is a consistent question I ask around new albums. I could ask you what your favorite song is, but you put so much time and effort in all of these, that just doesn't seem like the right question to ask. I go about it in a different way. There's a couple of singles out from the album right now, but there are a number of songs that still have yet to be released. I'm not going to ask you what your favorite unreleased track at this moment is, but out of the tracks that are not singles, which is the one you are most excited for people to hear when it's released, and why?
Well, yeah. Man, I'm really excited for people to hear Iron Sacrament, because it has Phil Bozeman on it, which is like a really cool special moment for us to have. We're very fortunate to call him a friend, and we all grew up. I mean, Whitechapel is a big reason this band exists. So to be able to do that and have him come in and do something with us, just for fun, and it come out, it's a pretty fucking ridiculous song. And I think that people are going to laugh out loud when they hear what he did on that song. So I'm excited to see the reactions to that, because every time when we first got it back, we literally just laughed for like 10 minutes about how fucking ridiculous it is. And I'm also, man, I'm excited for everybody to hear all the songs. Like you said, the last two songs are really pretty fun, really aggressive. The last song, Creator, we got to have a lot of fun with that and go pretty deep down the like the industrial grunge rabbit hole on the choruses, and the mix on that shit is awesome, especially if you get to listen with headphones. It kind of puts you in a place, which is really cool. It's got a cool atmosphere. But there's also two songs that are kind of like you said, kind of brings you down and brings you back up. Forcing to Forget and Sarcasm are definitely the two like pretty experimental songs, I'd say, that are a bit different from what we usually do. And it's the kind of thought with that was, you hear Iron Sacrament on the album, it ends with Phil, which is just ridiculous. And then it kind of is a huge palate cleanser. It's something totally different right out of that, pretty much. And kind of, and then over the course of those two songs, it's like it slowly builds back up, and then is kind of another ridiculous moment on the album that sets the tone for the for the last couple songs, which is it's cool. So that's kind of I'm more so just excited for people to kind of, like I said, hear it in the way it's meant to be heard. Because like I said, singles are cool. Obviously, you kind of got to reel people in with something, but there's something to be said about the journey there.
Oh, there absolutely is, and I think maybe even a better way to put it is, because it sounds like the most excited like songs that you're especially into for people to hear upon release is essentially the second half of the album with Iron Sacrament, Force You Forget, Circassian, Fear of Judgment, and then Creator as well. And it makes a lot of sense because those songs all have a little bit of a different flavor to them that you're expecting. With that Phil feature, I mean, by the end of it, I was just kind of sitting there just going like this and smiling because it was ridiculous.
so insane.
But it wasn't even that got me into the song. It was right at the beginning because the bass-driven style of it, and then there's some like cranking like potential pitch harmonics in the guitars that kind of have this taste of like what I like, especially from After the Burial, that gets thrown in there. So completely takes the song in a different direction you guys are going previously on the album. And then once Phil ends up coming in, it ends up adding to a whole different aspect of the song that you're not necessarily expecting, but it is what you need on it in order for it to be the most powerful thing possible, and one hell of a feature. And especially once it's over and you're sitting there with your head in your hands laughing because you just can't get enough of it. Forcing to Forget comes, and the guitar tone on that is different. It's completely changed up than anything you've heard on the album up to that point. But the uncleans that are used on it contrasts against it so well, where the song just stands out as a completely different piece. Like, it is unbelievably nuts. The one for me, though, that stood out was, I think I may have said it, but it's Fear and Judgment, song number 10. Because the thing that I could not get enough of was the feature of Jack Murray from 156 Silence. Because when his uncleans came in, I just thought that I'm like, you needed that to completely change up the song in a completely different direction. It was so well done. It showed a little more aggression in a different capacity. And then you got back into David's uncleans and it just took it into a little bit more of like a, not necessarily sinister, but much more of like a growly type version. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? Where you're starting to see these different vocals start flying from you left and right, and you're feeling these different emotions of people potentially judging you and you not being able to do anything based on fear of what they're going to do because you have different vocals coming you all at the same time. It was nuts. And I couldn't get enough of it. I think I even put after number 10, I said overall fucking best song on the record, in my opinion, at least. So,
Thank you. We've actually had a lot of people, even on our team, kind of be like, you should have done a video for that. And we're trying to work something out in the future, maybe like next year or something, to do something proper for that song, because it's a really cool song. But if we do it, we want to have everybody there, and it's a lot of moving pieces to put together and to work something out like of that scale. Because yeah, like you said, it's constant back and forth, and it adds to the kind of like chaos that the subject matter is about, where it's all over the place. And Jack and Johnny did a really great thing with that. We kind of gave them an idea of what the song was about and let them write their own parts. And we told them where we wanted them on the song, so that way it wasn't too messy. But as far as what they wanted to say is pretty much all from their own perspectives, which is really cool to be able to do that, because sometimes people just want you to hand them everything, which is fine, but I think something special happens when people get to kind of put their own energy into it.
Something special does happen in this song. Something special did happen because between the four of you guys and Signs of the Swarm, it already had that standout feel to it. But the features from Jack and Johnny on this not only could stand on their own, but everybody amplified each other. That's why I thought this was the absolute best song on the record. So when this gets released, I'm going to be curious to see what people specifically say about Fear and Judgment. Of course, what they're going to say about the entire album as a whole. But that's what I'm going to be specifically looking for because, again, I kind of got it as my favorite, and it just got me excited every time I got a chance to listen to it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. Yeah, I like that song a lot. We all really, really enjoyed that one.
Oh,
It's it's got some really special parts in it. That chorus groove, man, it's just like gets stuck in my head all the time still.
I'm gonna end up listening to that song again after we're done here,
Hell
honestly.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, one thing I like to always ask is, of course, we're coming towards, the album release time. We've got more stuff coming up the rest of the year. What else you guys got planned for 2025? I mean, we're in the second half of the year already. We're going to be going to the final third of the year by the time the album releases, getting into the colder weather months and the NFL football season months. So what can we expect from you guys for the rest of the year?
Yeah, we have a headline tour here in the States coming up in October with a bunch of friends, Mental Cruelty, 1056, Carcosa, Face Yourself. And that's going to be awesome. It's looking really, really good. And we got the album coming out on August 22nd. We'll have a couple more videos coming, hopefully, as well. And yeah, and just trying to stay busy. We're always, we're always booking tours pretty far in advance. A lot of stuff I can't mention, unfortunately, yet, or I'll get in trouble. But we stay busy, so you just keep an eye out. We're pretty much just about everywhere at least once a year. So
Oh, I don't want to
a
get you
lot
in
of fun.
trouble. I'm not going to try and, pry something out of you. We're not going to do the
Yeah.
classic, big things coming. We're just going to say there are
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Yeah, I
This is
try not to push it too much, but we stay busy. That's all I'll say. We stay busy. So if you keep your eyes out, you'll see us.
let's say this ain't good big things coming. This is good things coming. That's really what we're lining
Hell
up
yeah.
with. Well, Bobby, I got one more question before we wrap this up. It's something I like to ask every artist to bring on the podcast. It's a way for us to get to know more new music and for you to get to promote the music you love as well. I got to limit it to 3 so we don't go overboard. But can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Oh man. Um, that I would love to see more people get into. That's a great question, actually. I never really think about that. I guess bands that really deserve, or even just music, people that
Mm-hmm.
deserve some attention. From Joy is a great band from Texas. They're doing some really, really cool creative stuff that not a lot of people are doing, and they're all very, very wonderful people. And I definitely think they deserve some love. Um, Man, we tour with a lot of bands. I'm trying to think of. I haven't toured with From Joy. I just respect them a lot. So I'm trying to think of. We tour so many great bands that deserve so much more love than what they probably get. Um, I will say, okay, one of my favorites. I love Frank Turner. He's like a
Mm-hmm.
British kind of folk, folk music. That music has made such a huge impact on my life, and it's gotten me through all of the traveling and long nights and long days. So I think if you're ever looking for a pick me up, Frank Turner's a great one that I don't think enough people, not nearly enough people know. And he had some really cool like hardcore punk bands back in the early 2000s, like Million Dead and Mongol Horde. Some really cool, weirdly heavy shit that people are kind of trying to emulate now. That this dude was doing like 20 years ago that not a lot of people were doing. So that's good. And man, I want to say 156, but they're doing pretty good now. I don't think they really need my shout right now. um, Man, let's say Terminal Sleep. We just did a tour with them in the UK. They're in Europe, and they were wonderful, wonderful people, and they're working very, very hard. It's kind of like hardcore metalcore.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just signed a Nuclear Blast actually, and they're doing pretty well for themselves too. But man, it's something special. You find a band that like you can tell they deserve it and that they're really working for it, and they definitely deserve a shout out too. There's so many bands. I could do
Yeah.
this all day. This obviously I know you said keep it to 3 because I'll go
Yeah.
on forever, but there's so many great bands that deserve so much love. I think most of the best bands that you could ever hear will never make it much farther than their basement or a local VFW, you know, and it's a weird conundrum. But yeah, so much good shit. Just fucking keep your eyes on keep your ears on the ground. There's always stuff coming out. Go see local shows. Pittsburgh used to have such a great local scene, and they still have a good local scene. There's just not as many bands anymore. The bands that are here are great, but it used to be shows every weekend, 2-3 shows every weekend, 5-10 bands on each show. And then now you get like one a month, So go to local shows and meet people.
Yeah, go local shows and meet people. And I know I got to limit it to 3 because otherwise we'd go all day. I would not have been mad if you would have put 156 Silence Up. Is there? I know they're getting bigger. And I think that was the second show I saw this year. Second or third was their headline run they had back in February. Or maybe it wasn't even headlining. Maybe it was co-headlining, but that was still the best set I've seen all year. And we're already in July, and I'm like, that was the best set I've seen all year, was their set in a 250 cap room.
They're great. Their drummer is one of my best friends. He actually used to live with me and my wife for years. We used to be in bands together. We were in a band together years ago where he played drums and I played bass, and we used to tour all the time before Signs took off. And we shared a house for like 4 or 5 years. So it's very. He came on tour with us once and sold merch, and he's been grinding and working just as hard as I have, if not harder, just as long as I have, if not longer. Yeah. So it's very, very satisfying to see them finally kind of getting some recognition they deserve. But at this point, I think they're about to be everybody's new favorite band. So I don't think they need my love anymore, but I will always shout my praises for those guys. They're very, very wonderful people.
Oh, I will too. And Bobby, I want to thank you for taking the time for me on the podcast today. I'll close this out by saying 3 specific things. First things first, when it comes to Sign of the Swarm, when it comes to Find Them in Line, when it comes to the brand new album, To Rid Myself of Truth, go straight to the podcast below where it says Find Signs of the Swarm online. Link symbols for everything will be down there, where you find them on social media, where you can find them on YouTube, where you can go find them play live, where you can go get some merch, and of course, where you can get listened to and pre-order, pre-save, or just go straight up and buy the album, To Rid Myself of Truth. Again, August 22nd is that date. Now it's time for number 2. By whenever guests on the podcast and join the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise way to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you continue to support the band in the future. And you hit on this, so this is how I do it. It is not a promise of if, it is a when I get to see you perform live next. I will come and find you. I will come and say hello to you. But that's not the promise.
Please do.
The promise is that first round's on me.
Hell yeah. Well, the promise for me is I'll make sure you get a ticket. Just hit me up, shoot me a message. I'll take care of you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate it. And then I'll make good on that promise. So now we got to end this with number 3, where I cannot end this podcast by saying that is way, way, way too final. This was so fantastic to have you on here. I want to go and bring you back in the podcast in the future, and got to make good on that promise, sir. So I do not want this to be goodbye. I want this to be, I'll see you later.
Until next time. Thank you.
Woo! Well, folks, I'm here with Bobby from Signs of the Swarm, and now it's time for Kevin's final thought. Here's where we're going to go with my final thought today. Man, I was listening through this album, and I'm like, this is heavy, this is fun, and I want to see more of Signs of the Swarm. I want to see more of what they were going to do on this album, because when I got through the first 6 songs, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what I expected. This is good stuff, but where's that next portion? Where's that next piece going to come? And once Iron Sacrament by Signs of the Swarm featuring Phil Bolson from Whitechapel hit, it's like, okay, now we're starting to see something grow. We're starting to see something add to this. And then Forcing to Forget, it takes a different tone of approach on the guitar, and it's like, yo, this is nuts. Sarkazian takes another approach as well. Creator at the end takes another approach. But Fear and Judgment is still the one that stands out to me the most. And I love what Signs of the Swarm is able to do here. You're seeing the heaviness that they want to go on, and you're seeing the journey they want to take you on. But not only that journey of tearing you down and then rebuilding you back up is being present in this album, but seeing the sound get torn down and rebuilt back up in a completely different way on these last 5 songs on this record, again, To Rid Myself of Truth on August 22nd, is nuts. Fear and Judgment is going to be the one that's going to stand out, I believe, to all of you the most. So get ready for it, because chef's kiss, baby. chef's kiss. I want to thank Bobby for the podcast today. When it comes to Signs of the Storm, go to the podcast below. Link symbols for everything you need to know, where to find them, where to get to their music, where to listen to this brand new album, where to find them at a live show, and where to go and support them with some merch orders is down in the description of the podcast. Please also go down there to find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Links down there. Hit the subscribe button right down here. If you're on YouTube, hit the follow or subscribe button on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hit the like button on the episode to help push in the algorithm, because, hey, we're number 21 on million podcasts. Let's get to number 1. Best way to do it is to listen, share this with your friends, and tell people, ooh, yeah, Chord Progression Podcast, that's some good stuff. Go listen to it. Thank you, everybody. And that's going to be for me. Thank you very much for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of them. So, like healthy and hearty. See ya! Yeah.